Hey, yeah, what's up? This disciple Marcello Currents reign back up in this anti-Illuminati all day, as you know. So, this video is inspired by somebody online that obviously was a troll for America, or obviously some little spokesman for America, concerning child marriage, concerning the laws thereof, and the technicalities thereof. This is the bottom line. Before I even get into anything else, the fact that it's allowed is a contradiction to the whole system of America. I don't care what what you say it, how you slice the pie. You can put it in squares. You can slice it, you know, the original way. However you cut the crust. The fact is, child marriage is allowed here. Now, people will want to compare it to other countries. Look, what you need to be worried about is the response of the people here to child marriage. I'm gonna let that resonate. You don't need to worry about nobody where else. You think people gonna say, "Well, it's somewhere else." That makes it okay for us. We're gonna put up our guns and we're gonna not overthrow a government that allows child marriage just because someone else is doing it. No one cares if anybody else is doing it. That's the first thing these little Americans try to do. Try to point and make it and compare themselves to other countries, but they don't do that when it comes to, are they the best? We're better than other countries, there's nowhere here like here. I guess they do compare, I guess, in a way where they say they the best or they better than other countries, but the bottom line is, yeah, they make themselves equal only with other countries when it comes to stuff like this. Let me let that resonate. When it comes to stuff like this, now all of a sudden you equal with other countries. Well, they're doing it over there like us. But I thought you was the best in the world. Shouldn't you be a better example? Should you not have child marriage? Shouldn't you not have it? You being the best country in the world? But then when it comes to child marriage, now all of a sudden you equal with everybody else. You ain't the greatest country no more. Well, if you're doing what everybody else do, you're not great as they are you? If they're doing child marriage and you're doing child marriage, what makes you greater than them? That part. Huh? What makes you greater than them? And so that's what this guy on Facebook was talking about. Well, other countries in the world, so does other countries in the world. I'm talking about right here in the integrity that these Americans think their country have but don't have. These Americans are not informed that their country has it, let alone another country. They would assume another country has it, but Americans are not aware that their country has child marriage. Let me let that resonate. They're not aware of their own country, let alone who cares about somewhere else. This does not free America's integrity. Your integrity is on your own. Let me let that resonate. Your integrity is on your own. You can't say, well, we have the integrity of this people. We share the integrity of that people. You're your own man. Why are you bringing up other countries? We're talking about you. And right here alone with these people here that's crazy about abortion and all this other stuff, let's see how the public responds. Let's do a test and see how the Republicans respond to child marriage in 44 states. That's what you need to worry about. Because no one's going to serve. These Americans have been under the perspective or belief that their country does not have child marriage. So these are people that live in a non-existence type of country. They're not aware of this. So they're living in an existence of integrity that the government doesn't even have. Does that make sense? So they're living like we would never marry children. So what do you think the community is going to do with the government? That's the bottom line, because that's what separates them from us from other countries. Now, the other countries may know that their government is marrying children. I'm sure they do. But you know what's dangerous? A people that never knew their government was marrying children, and they feel this is wrong, and they've been living the lie. This is dangerous to their government, to the government. Let's put it like this: the community is the only community that probably doesn't know that their government has child marriage. Let that resonate. For the average American, for the bulk of American community, for the collective community and culture, they don't know that there's child marriage here. Other countries do know. So these people, you don't know how they're going to respond. They don't want to live under that. Other countries have. Let that resonate. Americans are unique in this way because I'm pretty sure no one wants to live under child marriage in 44 states. It doesn't matter how it is and what it is, and therefore that makes the government dissolved. To them, there's no Americans that have lived with the thoughts that they would never marry children, going to submit to a government that does marry children. That's the bottom line, is what the people gonna say. The good people. I ain't talking about these people out here want to ignore it. So when you compare America to other countries, keep this in mind. Their community here in America is the only, let's put it like this. The American community is the only community that has child marriage but doesn't know they do. You see how dangerous that is? They're the only country, far as the community outside the government, the everyday people, that do not know that they have 44 states marrying children. They have laws that allow adults to marry children at no minimum age. There's 7 other countries that do, but like I said, those countries probably know. This country does not. This community does not know. So you think these crazy Americans are going to allow you to marry children in 44 states? That's the bottom line. They ain't going to be thinking about nobody other country. You think they care? So you still have the same problem. I don't care how you look at it. You have the problem where there's a separation between government and community as far as perspective and culture. Well, American government has a track record of passing laws that allow people to marry children. The American community, which is a different entity in itself, is completely appalled at the thought of adults are marrying children. They're completely appalled to the thoughts of adults being in wedlock with children. So here's the punchline. What do you think the response of the American community is going to be when they find out? You think they're going to think about, well, gee, other countries may be doing it. It's okay then. That doesn't okay it. And that's not going to give you a good response from the American community just because other people are doing it. They're still not going to be feeling that. It's nothing going to change. Here's the other issue. This guy also was talking about whether it's a federal law or state law. Okay, civil marriage is passed by state laws, right? But these lawmakers are all connected to the government. Okay, you have a trickle-down effect. You got federal law, you got individual state laws, but it is not independent of the government. Let that resonate. It's not independent also of the oversight of the president, right or wrong, or the White House, or the Congress. Let's put it like this. No laws that's passed is passed without the oversight of Congress and the White House and the overall government. They oversee all of these laws, whether they be state or federal. That's the bottom line. Who cares if it's you splitting hairs now? Who cares if it's state or federal? The government is still overseeing it and allows it to be. That's the bottom line. And then here's the other issue, he said. This guy goes, well, it's with parental, it happens by with parental consent. Who cares? That's another I don't care. You think these people out here are worried about, the parents, only if the parents allows it. If the parents allow it, then, that's not that bad. That's worse to me that you pass a law that allows a parent to allow their child to be married. So when it happens, it's with the consent of the parent and the consent of the government. That part. The government allows it by passing the law, and then the parent allows it by giving consent to the child to marry. That's worse. In actuality, that's like saying, oh, okay, we're going to let the parents co-sign this too. We've already co-signed it basically by putting it into law. Now we're going to let the parents be a part of this pedophilia union too, basically. But the bottom line is here for all you folks that like to split hairs concerning this. It doesn't matter if without parental consent or not. It's the fact that the government and these lawmakers have passed a law that allows the possibility of a child to be married. I'm going to let that resonate. It's the fact that it's a possibility that someone can actually do it by law. It doesn't matter if the parents give consent or not. It's the fact that these lawmakers allows a law to be passed that allows child marriage as a possibility. That's all I need to know, is that your government has made it a possibility for a child to be married. Let that resonate. They have made a law that allows the possibility of a child to be married. That's all you need to know. Whether what goes on from there is irrelevant to me. I'm holding the lawmakers responsible for passing a law that makes it possible. It doesn't matter if the parents give consent or not. It's the fact that you made a possibility for a child to be in wedlock with an adult. Do I clear it all up? Is that all clear? Is it all cleared up now? For all you people that like to split hairs and make excuses for these Americans. Because at the end of the day, these Americans are not going and looking and worried about, I'll go check it out, because I'm a person of integrity. If you show me something, if you show me other countries, you show me something else, I'll look into that, but these other Americans could care less about another country. A lot of them got tunnel vision. All they worried about is what goes on here, and how a lot of them feel is what happens here is all that matters to them, and definitely concerning their children. What happens to other countries does not affect their children. What happens here does affect their children. The age of consent being under 18 in 40 states, that affects their children. Anybody want their children out here 16, 17, making babies, catching STDs, having a baby and not even financially responsible to handle it? Anybody want their children out there having sex? Any men out there want their 17-year-old girl having sex at 17? But your lawmakers allows it. They allow it. So the bottom line is whether we want to split hairs about this situation, but the bottom line is that they've made it a possibility for Americans to engage in sexual activity with children. That's the bottom line. And the guy that I was talking to on Facebook talked about Latin America having zero consent for sex, meaning any age. There was no set age. That was all cap. That was a lie. I looked it up. He just was trying to build a case against, well, to defend America. That's all he was. All it was, because he didn't screenshot it. I screenshot what I said, which was July 1st, 2019. It says 12 states, but I think it's 20. I forgot how I found it out, but it's 20 of them. But the bottom line is July 1st, 2019, 12 states or plus. I screenshotted him this. 12 states plus. Here, July 1st, 2019, passed a law that allows adults to marry children at no minimum age. Okay? He said there's a zero consent in Latin America. That I looked it up. It's not true. They have low ages of consent there throughout Latin America, but there is not a law that we can visibly see, tangibly see, not someone's imagination or somebody's lies. There's no laws. And I looked up the history too. I was thorough about it. I could have stopped at the age of consent now. I could have stopped there. I didn't stop there. I went and seen if in Latin American history, that they had zero age for like any age for the age of consent for sex or marriage. I didn't find that. The lowest I found in Latin America was 14 years old. Okay, but what he probably was trying to do was direct me to somebody who has the overall lower age of consent for sex. That's probably what he was trying to lead me to, which it doesn't affect my point of view, because America has too many laws that link to pedophilia. It's too many of them. That's the bottom line. It's too many laws here. I can't speak for anywhere else, because what it seems like in these other places that do have these laws with child marriage and everything else, it's solid. It's like one or two laws, it's solid, and that's it. It's set. Here in America, what makes it worse, I'm not saying one is, that's not bad. I'm not saying they shouldn't be brought to justice. I'm not saying that. But what makes it worse here is you have collective child sex laws. And I told him about the world record. He talking about, but Latin America has zero. No. That never was even true. There was no laws I found that surpassed the world record that America has, which is in the state of Delaware in 1880 at 7 years old. There's no records anywhere with any other country that surpassed this law. I think it's pretty bad when you actually have a very low age number on record. Okay, no minimum age is obviously bad. But when you start seeing the number it is, man, it gives you a visual. It gives you a visual. 7 years old, that's a visual. And you have the world record. There's no one else that has this. Although there's other countries that have no minimum age for marriage. But as far as the age of consent, as a law itself, those are not the same two laws. There has not been a law that has been the age of consent at 7 years old in Latin America or anywhere else in the country. I haven't seen 7 years old as a number. Go Google it. Go Google it yourself. You will only see, when you Google 7 years old as the age of consent, you will see comparable numbers. The only way you will find this number is if you look at the lowest age of consent in American history. This is where you find the 7 years old number in the state of Delaware in 1880. That's where you find it at. When you try to Google it, I tried to Google it. It's going to show you comparable numbers, but the way that you find it is digging into the American history. So basically, there's nowhere else where 7 years old pops up as the age of consent. We're talking about the age of consent now. You can't be slow. The age of consent and child marriage are not the same thing. The age of consent is where outside of marriage, someone can just have sex. The age of consent for sex is, as far as the law goes, is the age where someone can say yes to an adult. It's okay. No one has a problem with that child saying yes to an adult. That's what the age of consent by law, that's what it's all about. It's all about where a child can say yes to sex, and the community and government has no problem with it. This particular law and perspective was set at the lowest here in America at 7 years old. That's the age of consent outside of marriage. Now, around the world, you have the age, no minimum age in 7 other countries, which means they can marry children at any age. That's a law, a child marriage law. Now, the age of consent law is outside of marriage. This is where America is separated from the rest of the world. They had a law based on consent outside of marriage, just where a child is not married or not planning to get married, they could just say yes for sex. They have the lowest record for that interaction or allowance of that interaction at 7 years old. There's no age of consent law in the world where it's low as 7 years old. They have the world record, and that still is the case. This man was telling me in response to that, no, it's not. That it's not America. When I told him America has the lowest record for the lowest, that has the world record for the lowest age of consent, being at 7 years old in the state of Delaware in 1880, he goes, no, it's Latin America. They have zero age of I think he said marriage. But this is bogus information. And if he was talking about marriage and law and and he was talking about the Middle East too. He said the Middle East got it too. So that he had to be referring to child marriage laws, not the age of consent. So when he said, the zero age, that had to be child marriage. That couldn't have been the age of consent. I didn't find any Latin American laws is concerning the age of consent, where people are just out and about, no marriage, no nothing, and they're just having sex with other people. America has the lowest age for that kind of interaction, where people just having sex with children. I didn't find any law in Latin America that allows people roaming around to have sex with someone lower than 7 years old. America has that record. America has that record. And see, people say, well, this was so long ago. But see, what you got to understand is it gives you a perspective of these people here. Because at the end of the day, who wants to have sex with a 7-year-old girl, man? What grown man? Now, when you were kids, people messed around because you were a kid, okay? But as a fully grown man, who wants to mess with a 7-year-old girl? So why would America be passing a law like that? I don't care what anybody else do. I'm talking about here. And you can't show me any other country that has, you got to show me. I'm a show me type of person. Because what the information I found, I didn't just rattle it off. I didn't just come up with this information. I can show you. I can Google this. You can Google this. And you will see the same information that I'm talking about. Okay? You will see the same information. If you can't show me, then you could be lying. You could be, saying some stuff that someone else told you. Or I don't go by that. You could be going by misinformation, history. I'm all about show me, show me, show me. All right? And when I look up Latin America, I do not see the age of consent, meaning where a child can say yes to an adult for sex. I don't see that ever in any of their history ever being as low as 7 years old. I see 14. I don't see 7 years old, which is double what you got as the world record in America. You got 7 years old. They got 14. So by law, you have done half of what they done, which is worse. They passed laws. If this guy was trying to bring up Latin America, well, how are you gonna bring up the Latin American governments when you've done half of what they did, which means you've had the law at 7 years old. They had it at 14. They have it double what you have. You would have to double that number to compare it to them. Basically, your number could be doubled and it would just be right on the dot 14. But that's doubled it. You have it in half of that number. You're half of 14 as the world record at 7 years old as the age of consent in the state of Delaware in 1880. And if you can't show me any, as far as the age of consent law, because marriage is one thing, people roaming around having sex is another. Let me let that resonate. This is why you can't trade one for the other or ignore one for the other. You can't ignore either one because, see, everybody's not getting married, period. So you have to know what the age is that people can have sex with children. You see what I'm saying? That's a law in itself. Outside of people thinking to marry children, people wanting to be married, some people just don't want to be married. So we got to figure out, and even the pedophiles, we have to figure out how, what the law is for a child to be able to say yes to an adult concerning sex, and the governments allow it. And as far as the age of consent, which that would be, you have America the lowest age on record. I'm not talking about hearsay. I'm not talking about when somebody sitting up lying and trying to defend you concerning. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you having on record the lowest age where a child can say yes to an adult for sex. Like the child can just say yes. Let me point this picture. Let me paint the picture for you. In the state of Delaware in 1880, a child could say, yes, come over here and have sex with me at 7 years old. Let me let that resonate. Sick, ain't it? It's like some weird movie, right? Some strange horror / elf-like movie where a child can say, yes, come over here and have sex with me at 7 years old. That's what the age of consent is, where a child can summon an adult and say, yeah, come on. They can do that. They can say, yeah, come on, let's have sex. That's what the age of consent law is all about, where basically a child can summon an adult and say yes with their voice, verbally saying, they can audibly say to an adult, come on, let's have sex, come on. And you think a 7-year-old girl should be saying, come on, let's have sex? See, that's not a child marriage law. Now you see the difference. Okay? That's the difference. This would be children out in the state of Delaware, just out there. And they can just have sex just like everyone has sex without, marriage. That's what this would be. Just people just having sex. No marriage. And this would be the laws that, as far as the age of consent, that allows people to have sex without being locked up. So the state of Delaware didn't lock people up for having sex with 7-year-old girls. The 7-year-old girl could summon one of these guys and say, yeah, come over here. She could say that. And that would be legal. So what's the weird thing about this age consent? You would think that how would even a child would even be able to say, why would even think to say yeah to sex? What child would do that? What child would say, even if the adult is the aggressor, which obviously the adult is, what child is gonna say, well, yeah, I'm okay with that. Let's do it. So how did they even actually, how does the child at 7 years old even give consent is what I'm saying. How does the 7 year old girl say yes when her mind is far, I don't know. It just seemed like, that wouldn't work in an adult case. Children messing around, they kind of get into it and then they got their ball rolling. But how's an adult make a girl have a conversation about that to where she understands and she says yes? That's how you know it's too low of an age, because it doesn't make sense. The conversation wouldn't make sense. The dialogue about having sex, which her giving consent would be that dialogue. How would that even make sense? You dialoguing with a 7 year old girl. That part. You see what I'm saying? And there's no records nowhere. Don't listen to anyone out there talking about Latin America, because there's no records as far as the age of consent, which means the laws that cover the land where people can just have sex with each other without getting locked up because they're too young. There's no law that concerning that. Those are laws that we have to abide by, where it's the lowest anywhere else but America. America has that law where people can roam around and have, at that time, and have had sex with 7 year old girls. There's no, go look for it. The age of consent somewhere else, 7 years old. Go look it up.